It's time we finally got a proper U2. Welcome back to Cocky Gachas, and in this video I'm going to talk about the newly dropped U2 that I think was an upgrade from 1.1 U2, which was extremely easy. So for this U2 itself, the main difference I felt was that this U2, for all of the stages, they were extremely tanky as compared to 1.1. So this upgrade might be a shock, especially for new players. Hence, I do think that it is extremely important that we take our time to get as many cards as possible if you have a less invested account. So first thing I want to touch on is going to be the card strat, especially since when you look at these U2 details, right, if you were to click on these cards, you will be given options. So picking the right cards will be of utmost importance to your success in clearing all U2 stages. And first thing you have to notice over here, right, is that if you really cannot clear U2, feel free to use your card catalog sooner, because every day you will get 5 extra free pulls, so do not make it cap at 10. But importantly, also note that as much as possible, try to clear U2 15 first, so that you get the 28% to get the gold fame card before you can further proceed on to get all of these good cards at a higher rate. So after that, I'm going to touch on what cards are good and what is my strategy coming into U2, completing all of these stages in the first day. In fact, I think in a few hours I already completed it, because my units are pretty invested compared to a lot of people's account as a day one player. And my strategy going in is to make use of to the left. Okay, this is my motto. It's like the song. Okay, to the left, to the left. Okay, everything is to the left. Okay, just focus on to the left units, especially if you have carries such as Changling, you have carries such as Melania. This really benefits you to run one of those hyper carries with 3 of those supporting casts. You can use like Balloon Party with Tooth Fairy. You can use like even Beacon can be a supporting cast. Although Beacon does a lot of DPS as a sub DPS, I think that to the left strat is going to outweigh the DPS that your Beacon is going to bring to you. So some of the notable to the left cards that I'm going to mention, of course, first one is the Burton card. You do get this for free. This makes you deal 80% more damage, while other units deal 20% less damage. So there's a trade-off, but it is definitely worth it. Second one that is also very OP, especially with Melania, in fact I think with all units is very OP, is the Jessica, the Listener Orange card. So for this Jessica Listener Orange card, right, the damage taken reduction is 20%, but that is not the main thing. It's after casting an ultimate, the leftmost character gain 2 Muxi, which means that technically after you cast an ultimate, you only need to use 3 more cards or gain 3 more Muxi for you to ultimate again. This can really fall into the infinite loop, right? Every single turn you can be outing, especially if you are using Melania. Otherwise, right, every 2 turns you should be outing with your main carry, and this one does in fact go to the left. So technically you could use this on other units so that you do not have to use it on your main target. You can still have it when your supporting cast will use ultimate, you will gain the Muxi, but I would think that highly recommend you to put it on the main carry itself, because you can really avoid a lot of the awkward scenarios whereby you don't time it perfectly, and it's much more brainless, right, when you put it on the actual carry. But of course, if you want to min-max, you can put it on the supporting cast. Other to the left cards include like Flash of Brilliance, which is the stacking of damage dealt by 4% every time you act. There is also the critical one. I do not have the critical one, but is this crystal ball over here. This is Matilda's crystal ball, and for this crystal ball, it is stacking crit rate as well as crit damage. So if you have played the last U2, you should already know that there are cards which stack your own damage as well as your crit rate, crit damage, right, by you acting. So this time round, right, we are trying to let the supporting cast do the stacking work, while the main unit is going to focus on just other of the potential buffs, such as having like rousing morale with this making of a king card. Every 2 actions you gain rousing morale, so this is also very good to put on your hyper carry. And just to note, right, if you have the Leilani card which says damage dealt increased by 4%, you cannot use a to the left card also. It will not stack, meaning you will not gain the 4% by your hyper carry acting, and also gain the 4% with your supporting cast acting with the 2 different cards. You only can use one of those. So I don't really think that Leilani card is as good this time round, because you can put other cards and have the to the left cards to buff your units that way. So Leilani card not the best, and the rest of the to the left cards are also pretty good. You can just go and see what kind of to the left cards you have, right? All of them are very decent. The poison cards in general are very bad. I don't think the poison cards are that good, but one good card is the Blondie card. The Blondie card over here, right, when using rank 2 and rank 3 incantations, incantation might increase by 30%. If target is inflicted with poison, incantation might increases by additional 40%. Extremely good for Changling. Okay, just put it on Changling, you have an extremely good time. Unlike the other poison cards, not the best. So this one of the better cards. As for survivability, the cards that have been phased out, right, mainly are the DPS cards. So survivability cards, right, are generally the same. You can see that over here there is the healing, tier 2 or healing, you gain a random +1 tier for incantation. All of the supporting ones. You have the when dying recover 50% of lost HP. This is extremely important, especially since a lot of your cards right now, right, are focused on supporting cards are on to the left, which means your personal sustainability of that unit itself, right, you cannot put extra cards to sustain them. Hence, you definitely want to at least dedicate one card to having this on your supporting card so that you are able to survive. Doesn't really matter the tier, by the way. You don't have to be gold. You can even be blue because the effect is the same. The increased damage is really not exactly the best thing that you want to go for anyways. So this is just the general strat. Go for the to the left cards. The rest of the cards are not that significant. The standard stacking route is still possible. You can still use Pour Rain. Over here, you can see Pour Rain with the allied action points +1, and then you can go with a balanced team. But I strongly feel that if you have a hyper carry, make use of this to the left cards, right? I do think that they are quite broken, so definitely abuse it for this U2. Next U2 probably they are going to be phased out already because usually they'll phase out the extremely strong cards. So this series might be gone. Give yourself a chance to abuse it while you can. So these are the recommended cards when it comes to clearing it. And next I want to touch on the U2 stages. So this time around I don't think that U230 is in fact the most difficult. I would name down a couple of ones that I've seen people struggle the most and then give you guys a brief breakdown of the stages, and then lastly show you guys a footage of the harder stages in my opinion, which is the most annoying one. I wouldn't say exactly it's the hardest one. So the first one is stage 20. It is very easy if you know what to do. So one problem with less invested accounts, especially when tackling the stage 20, right, is that you would be poisoned so much that you instantly die. Okay, you cannot sustain. Even if you have 2 fairy, you cannot out all the time to cleanse it, and especially if you don't have 2 fairy, very difficult stage itself. So the thing here you have to take note is when you have pollution, right? Over here you can see this guy, he does a lot of attacks that give you pollution, so it inflicts 1 stack of pollution on the target. However, right, the thing is, if you were to kill it, it will purify all enemies of pollution. So as long as you have high stacks of pollution, you definitely want to clear it because pollution is quite freaking painful. 20% Genesis damage, right, according to your user's attack. Very painful. And also you can see increased duration by 1. So every time it goes is 2 rounds. And also when you attack the boss, right, you can see that it takes less damage if you have more pollution. So you definitely want to not be able to subject yourself to too many pollutions over here. Hence, I would suggest, right, since you have 15 rounds, try to clear the pollutions as much as possible. Lower all of them. AoE attack here is really desired. Do not strictly go for the main target. It's not going to do you good. After a while, you will notice that you start to do less and less damage because your pollution stacks are so high, and also you are going to die very fast. So this is for stage 20. Now moving on, the next stage that you guys might have difficulty will be stage 25. I do think, especially if you do not have single target star DPS such as Lilia or Charlie, you're going to struggle quite a bit. And the reason is because over here you can see this boss is a single target boss and it has 160k HP, quite a lot. And you also do not take as much damage, right? The boss do not take as much damage as it loses more damage. Every 10% lost health, it's going to take 5% less damage, and also it will regain health. So over here, right, the strategy that I do recommend you guys is to rush it, to have, of course, to the left strategy. I think this one very important. Have all your to the left guys, and then the hyper carry just burst them down as hard as possible. This is just a DPS check as much as possible. And also over here you can see, right, you do not want to just purely sustain, because at the end of the round damage dealt increases by 5% by the opponent, so it will keep going higher and higher. You will not be able to out sustain eventually. So definitely you want to try to ramp out your damage as much as possible at the start, and also using like units such as with single target focus such as Melania is going to really do you a lot of good. If not, right, you can try something with like healing wounds like Eternity to support it, because healing wounds does reduce the amount of damage that the boss actually heals every single turn when they attack. So this is going to be quite important when it comes to outbursting this DPS check stage. Now next we have stage 27, which I do think that it is also a DPS check. So you can see a lot of this are DPS checks, but I have a strategy also for you guys to potentially clear it much easier. So you can see this stage comprises of 3 of the A Knights, and I am going to warn you because this stage is extremely difficult if you do not read. Okay, the first thing is because they all gain Petrify at the start of the battle. What does Petrify mean? They do not actually state what Petrify is, but Petrify means that the unit cannot move. So if I were to just go into the battle itself, you can see over here, bam, all of them are going to be petrified. So you can see all petrified. They cannot move. Okay, you might be thinking, hey, cannot move, I just hit them. Okay, the answer is wrong. If you were to hit them with a reality damage, you are going to break petrified, which means the optimal choice, of course, is to hit them with a full mentor team. But at the same time, if you are lower invested, you do not have enough DPS, when they are petrified, they take a lot less damage. You can see over here, petrify, damage taken is reduced by 50%. So my recommended strategy for this stage is to keep them petrified initially while focusing down on one A Knight, or try to focus down on one A Knight. And the reason is very simple. If you keep them petrified, they cannot kill you. You have 15 turns, remember guys, 15 turns. But you also want to have a reality user to break off the petrify. Once you're at the Q range for the boss itself, for this one of the A Knights itself, right, deactivate the petrify by using optimally a single target debuff card. Okay, so over here, if I were to deactivate it, imagine I have an ultimate. This is my ultimate. I'm going to use my ultimate, and then once you do this, first thing first, you break it. Okay, it is going to take 50% more damage, and then you burst down the A Knight. So this is how you work through this stage. Of course, if you have a full mentor team and you are invested, you can still do it without breaking of the reality damage. But I do think that optimally for lower invested accounts, this is the strategy you should go for. Now lastly, I'm going to touch on this stage, stage 24, which I think is the most freaking annoying stage out of all 30 stages, right? Even regulars is not that annoying, and the reason why is because this freaking spiders, right, and this stupid eye of the doorway over here, you might not know. You might just play this stage normally and you can never ever clear, and the reason is very simple. Because these stupid spiders, right, will actually be summoned by this eye of the doorway over here. Up to 3 spiders. You might think up to 3 I can just keep killing the spiders. No. The damage bonus over here, right, at end of every round, damage dealt increased by 5%, stackable. It's also going to be a pain in the ass if you just focus on killing spiders one by one. Okay, unless you have a very heavily invested team. So my strategy here is to ignore the eye of the doorway. You just need to use the to the left strategy and try to kill all of the 3 spiders at the same time. If you kill all the spiders, the stage will end, guys. It will not summon any more spiders, and it cannot summon spiders because the maximum limit is 3 spiders. So if you keep 3 spiders all alive, but you wither them down at the same time, right, you are going to be able to clear this stage pretty easily if you have a AoE carry. If you have a single target carry, if you're more invested, you definitely could clear it. I initially clear it with I think 8 rounds or 10 rounds with my Melania Shred, but that was a bit of a brute force because I was also using 2 Ferry. The team that I actually cleared with to have a lowest count and also with a more optimized strategy, right, I do believe it's more lower invested focus, is this strat over here, which you can see. You might be thinking, hey Corky, all I250, you kidding me, you clear this stage? But you will see it for yourself at the end of this video where I can show you the full stage. But the more important thing here is the strategy, like I mentioned, right, just focusing on getting 2 ults. Do not overly focus on having heal cards, topping your units up to the maximum because of this stacking nonsense shit, right? You are not going to be able to sustain, especially if you are lower invested account like me. If I am using this team with all I250s, right, you might not be able to clear it using any other strat except for this strat, whereby you focus on the to the left strategy and you also focus on using 2 ultimates on the to the left guy, the hyper carry. And over here, my hyper carry was Sotheby. Sotheby has the AoE damage, maybe it will also be better. And Eternity as well as Balloon Party are useless over here. Balloon Party only heal once or twice, I think, and Eternity here is just to die. Because I do not have any other low invested units that might be able to focus on the role of showing that the main 2 targets, right, the main 2 Sotheby as well as Beacon are the carries for this one. The rest are not as important. So I hope that you guys can also clear this stage using my strategy. Enjoy the battle.